What is up, guys? Welcome to my review of Predator Badlands. This is the 7th film in the Predator franchise, 9th film if you count the two Alien vs. Predator films, and the 3rd film in this franchise brought to us from director Dan Trachtenberg, who gave us Prey and then followed it up earlier this year with the animated film Predator Killer of Killers. And essentially what this movie is kind of flipping the entire dynamic and formula of what we have come to know from these Predator films, which typically has some kind of a human protagonist going up against some version, some clan of a predator, and it ends up being like a one-on-one survival tale. In this one, we're actually following the journey and the adventure of one of these said predators, one of the Yautja, which is like the species name, the proper name for the predator. And the story of Predator Badlands is we are following basically the runt of this predator clan named Dek, and he is the small, quote-unquote inferior one of this clan. They don't really have any faith in him. He has struggled greatly to try to gain the respect that he wants and to essentially level up inside of this clan. So he decides, fuck it, I'm going to go to this horrific planet and I'm going to seek out and kill this seemingly unkillable trophy that nobody else in his clan has the balls to undertake. Now, ever since this was announced, if I'm not mistaken, it was out of New York Comic-Con. This is one of the few times I actually did watch the teaser trailer because I was very curious when I heard the premise. I always thought it was a really cool idea to do something different and subversive. And, 7 films into a franchise, you want to start doing something a little bit different, not just stick to a formula. At the same time, there was a lot of things here that I could see easily going horribly wrong, and this being a movie that comes out and maybe is fun and exciting, but is a film that Predator fans entirely reject. Having him be the hero of a film, that could work, that could go horribly wrong. Having him team up with a synthetic that is clearly going to be a little bit more of a comedic character in Elle Fanning, that could be fun, that could go horribly wrong. And so essentially I walked into this film being pretty certain that I was going to be watching an exciting action-filled movie, but walked in with a lot of reservations and would not have been surprised at all if I walked out and said, yeah, good experiment, but let's not do that again. But much to my pleasant surprise, I checked this out last night and walked out and said, holy shit, that was awesome. I want the sequel now. So starting off with the positives for Predator Badlands, I absolutely loved the action-adventure tone that this movie goes for. This really is like a hero's journey, like a rite of passage, a coming-of-age type story for this young Yautja character. And it is one where typically we have a lot of thriller and a lot of horror elements in these movies, and it's about survival, and there's a lot of tension, and you certainly have tension in this movie, but it's all about the thrills. It's all about the action. It's about the fight sequences. It's about the hunt, and you get to be like actually in the POV of the person doing the hunting. And so this was one where as soon as this movie started, like almost immediately, it kicks off with a fight sequence, and with the exception of maybe like 2 scenes where they take a breath and try to attempt to do a couple of cute jokes, it's just a mile a minute. It's action sequence followed by fight sequence, followed by hunt sequence, followed by another fight sequence. It was pure high-octane action-adventure awesomeness. I also really enjoyed being able to kind of step into the actual Predator clan here. Like, if you've watched these movies from the beginning, you've seen the expansion to the lore, and you get a very good idea of how these clans work and how their respect and their honor works and everything. But this one really does show kind of the dark side of all of that, where there is just such a brutal cutoff within these clans of like, either you're the baddest motherfucker ever or you're rejected, we're going to kill you because you're going to slow us down. And seeing how true family dynamics work within that, where of course we understand the rules of our species, but at the same time, what the fuck, bro, I'm your son. Like, getting that more human element out of a Predator character was a really cool dynamic in this one that, of course, we have not seen much of yet. So having this main character Dek with the motion capture performance as well by an actor, Demetrius Schuster Kolamatangi. I probably fucked that name up royally. I've never seen him in anything, but he is damn good in the lead role of this movie. And Dek is a character that you immediately root for because he's the underdog. Like, you feel for him. Like, you immediately get into the emotions of this family dynamic and the tensions that it creates and what this journey is going to mean to him, what this hunt is going to mean to him outside of just being proven to be the bad motherfucker. Like, there's just so many other things at play that every single hardship he comes across, every single hard lesson that he learns, every single skill that he develops throughout the movie. Like, you get pumped up watching this guy become this badass. I also really enjoyed all of the creature designs that we get in this. Like, you get to this alien world and there's so many different other species, like both plant life as well as animal life, that he has to fight and he has to survive through. A number of the things that he has to go up against and fight as he is kind of leveling his way up to this ultimate hunt kind of feels like a video game boss and like a kaiju in a lot of ways. I saw a couple of people say that the film feels like it's very much inspired by games like God of War and Shadow of the Colossus, and I absolutely picked that up. I don't know if Dan Trachtenberg is on record somewhere by saying that, but that's a part of my headcanon, because this definitely does feel like a video game brought to life in the best way that you can interpret that. And given that this is a very CGI-driven film, not only with our lead character, but with the world that they are bringing to life, I actually thought the CGI was very convincing. I know that there was a lot of controversy coming out of the first couple of trailers, people thinking that it wasn't that great looking. I don't know if they improved it since then, or if I just wouldn't have been on the side of the opinion that didn't think that the trailer looked great, but I thought that it was pretty convincing. I thought it was a very vivid world. It was a very interesting world to explore visually. Like, there's a title card sequence where he's looking out on this mountaintop across this planet that he's about to explore and go on this adventure of, and boom, Predator Badlands comes up. And it almost was like a Kurosawa movie or something, where it's like, this is about to be a badass warrior's journey. Elle Fanning is pretty much playing our lead humanoid character here, the one that speaks in English that, you know, we get a lot of our more human experience from. She's playing two different versions of a synthetic, one being the pseudo companion of Deck, the other one actually being the antagonist of the film. But I think she does a really good job. She's got a lot of personality in this movie, which is certainly needed when you have a hero, a protagonist that is very just driven, very stoic, doesn't talk a lot. And even when he does, of course, it's in the Predator language. I think it's important to have kind of that more human relatable element in here. And I think she does a great job at being that. There's some cute back and forth, a nice little dynamic where they grow this friendship and this respect for each other. And even just the synthetic characters in general within these alien films predominantly, but now this one as well, like the Weyland-Yutani products. We've had a varying degree of personalities from them. You have Ash in the original Alien, who ends up being this really terrifying antagonist. And of course, you have Bishop, who's a fan favorite from Alien. And then even most recently in Alien, Romulus was kind of a standout. So even the synthetic characters, just in general, I like the way that we're continuing to get these different characters, different dynamics, these different relationships from them, despite them literally just being tools, which is quite literally what this main character, this Yautja, uses the synthetic as. He justifies it as, I'm using a tool. You're not helping me, I am using you. Now, while there are elements of this that I'm going to discuss later on in the video, for the most part, I thought they were pretty successful with their attempts at humor here. To me, the best pieces of humor is the situational humor, and especially the humor that's directed primarily at how serious and how self-serious our lead Predator character is. Like Deck's lack of humanity, lack of understanding of the needs of others, and, you know, the gray areas of life, and he's just laser focused on the clan, the hunt, the trophy. There's a good amount of humor that comes through that as he is kind of growing as a character in the movie. Overall, what I'll say as a positive is that this is one of the most fun theater experiences that I've had in the calendar year of 2025. You know, I'm somebody that absolutely loves pure old school action movies and action adventure movies. And while this is certainly a very different style of film than things like the original Predator, I just had an absolute blast with what they were doing here. I thought it was so frantic and exciting and chaotic in the best ways. The way that they built this character arc and the way that so many different things pay off in the third act with absolute like fist pumping moments of excitement. This was a big risk to take with this franchise, and I'm sure there's going to be some people that aren't as on board for it as I am, but as somebody that walked in very skeptical, this paid off big for me. And now moving on to the mixed, and what I'm going to say here might sound a little bizarre given what I just ended my positive section by saying. I'm pretty confident that this movie is going to be a success. I don't know if it's going to be a massive hit, but I'm pretty sure that they're going to have a profit. I'm pretty sure that the majority of people that see it, critics and especially audience, are going to like this. I just hope that Fox, and more importantly, Disney, who owns Fox now, does not learn the wrong lessons from this movie's success. I love a number of the Predator movies, especially the original. Who doesn't? And as I said, I think that this is such a different take, a different tone, a different dynamic than what we typically see from this franchise that I was worried about, but paid off big for me, and I think is going to pay off big for a lot of people. But I don't want this to become the template for everything Predator going forward. That is my one fear. I don't want the Predator to suddenly turn into the hero. You know, I don't want this to go the direction of the Terminator franchise, where we get Terminator 2, which I love, and Arnold Schwarzenegger's the hero now, and then we never see a dark, more horror, villainous spin from that character or that franchise ever again. I don't want that to happen with Predator. If we want to do a sequel to Badlands, and there's certainly directions that could go with that, fully on board for that. I hope it comes sooner than later, but I do hope that as this franchise goes on, they do maintain what we love about the older films, getting us a Predator in, you know, feudal Japan, or getting us a Predator in World War II, or whatever directions they want to have that goes more along the directions that they succeeded with Prey not too long ago. I still want those movies to exist. It's not a knock on this movie. It's not something that's, you know, taking a point off of Predator Badlands. It's just a thought that is attached to this movie that is something that's going to be a slight worry of mine going forward. And going along with that, I don't want it to become a trend going forward that Predator movies are PG-13. Now, I want to state this clearly. This is not a watered-down Predator film. I know that when they announced that this was going to be PG-13, a lot of people were up in arms for somewhat understandable reasons. I don't like when an Alien film is PG-13. There's certain franchises that I feel like should stay rated R. These are made for adults. Quit trying to make them 4-quadrant films, because you're going to completely alienate, no pun intended, the target audience and the established fan base of these films. And there were people that were worried Predator Badlands was going to be that. I'm here to tell you it is just as visceral, as intense, and as gory as you would expect a Predator film to be. There's just no human gore. There's no red blood on screen. And as ridiculous as it might be, that is just enough for the MPAA to give this a PG-13 over rated R. If I'm not mistaken, this goes all the way back to films like Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, where he showed them he used chocolate syrup in the famous shower scene instead of fake blood, and that was enough for them to consider it not NC-17 or something, or rated X. I might be skewing the details, but there's some pretty stupid rules as far as the MPAA. There are a ton of different creatures. There are synthetics. There are other predators or youches in this film that get decapitated, that lose limbs, that have guts and have spines and fucking rib cages ripped out. Like, it is a movie that goes for the brutality that you want and expect from Predator film. It's just not humans. So I think that they pulled that off as best as you possibly can. It did not feel like I was missing something key from this experience. Now, if they had found a way to get some humans into the carnage, if there was a few people from Weyland-Yutani walking around the planet that Deck was ripping their spinal cords and everything out, would I have liked it? Oh, you're fucking right, I would have liked it. But it didn't feel like it was missing. So this proves that you can do other things, that you can make Predator films that aren't exclusively for adults, and you can have a lot of fun with that, but I don't want that to be the norm. I don't want that to be all we get. I still want some fucking human carnage in my Predator films in the future. I want skulls ripped off. I want spinal cords being waved around like a flag at a fucking football game. I want it! Don't you take it away from me, Disney. And now moving on to the negatives, and I'll start off with a really small one. There is a fight sequence that opens this movie where two predators are battling, and of course, everything that they say is in subtitles. And they didn't do anything stylistically to differentiate between which predator was talking. It was the same font, the same colored subtitles. And so while it's a short sequence, it's the opening sequence, and we don't have this problem again for the rest of the runtime of the movie, I wish they would have done something like staggered the subtitles or colored one of them yellow and one of them red, or something to where I could visually differentiate between who was talking. I got really worried when the movie started, and I was like, oh fuck, is this going to happen the whole time? It doesn't, but they should have done something a little different. Another issue that I had was, again, very small, but this is a movie where kind of fitting with how most movies under the Disney umbrella tend to go, especially with their Marvel films. I don't think that there's as much standout about the villains or the antagonists in this movie near as much as our heroes. That is the predominant focus of the story, the character arcs, and all the scenes. And so I wish we would have gotten a little bit more from our antagonist just to make them a little bit more of a deeper, more dynamic character that Deck has to go up against. It's something that does not really kill my enjoyment factor of the movie. It's just something that could have raised it up just a little bit more if we had an equally compelling villain on the other side of the coin. And my final negative, and this was my most significant issue of the film, and luckily it only happens in like 2 scenes. There are points where I felt they tried to take the humor too far. There are points where it felt they were going way too into the cute territory. Like there's literally a little monster creature that kind of tags along with them at certain points of the movie that is very much their attempt of having some form of like a Grogu character in the Predator world. And there's also some lines of dialogue every once in a while from Elle Fanning that feels a little overly cutesy. And so those were the moments where I started to kind of tense up, get a little bit worried, like, is this movie going to devolve into something that feels like it's for kids? It never does. But those are the only moments in the movie, of which there are only like 2 or 3 of them, that felt Disney-fied to me. And I know that's a lot of people's worries, is like, is this going to be a Disney templated Predator film? I would not say so, but there are moments where it feels that way. But overall, guys, this is one of the most pleasant surprises of the year for me. This is instantly up into my maybe top 5 of the year, honestly. Like, I'm excited to go back to the theater, maybe bring my dad to go see it. I did not expect to walk out raving about this film, and I had such an incredible time with it. This is one of the Predator films that I could see myself rewatching the most. And I do need to revisit some of the films. I am going to do an updated ranking of this franchise since we have 2 brand new films at some point this coming weekend. But there is a chance that this might dethrone Prey as my favorite Predator sequel. And that's a tall order because I really like Prey, I really like Predators, and I don't tend to be somebody that buys into recency bias. I just had that great of a time watching this movie. It was an absolute blast. Well, that's it for this one, guys. If you enjoyed that, please click over here for all of my 2025 new release reviews. If you're a fan of the Predator and the Alien franchise, here's a tier list that I made where I pitted the 2 franchises against each other and saw who came out on top. Please like, share, and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss that Predator ranking coming to you in a couple of days. And as always, remember, opinions are like assholes, but that doesn't mean you have to be.